Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and in honor of Vegas week for the Vikings, I have a gambling foible that will make you chuckle.
Who talks like that? Hi, I am Arif from the Wide Left Substack. Don't scoop your bagels, bro.
I'm Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, and tonight there is a Thursday night under that will live in infamy.
Stealing my under, huh? Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. I want to know which Viking player is most likely to sneak down to the blackjack table the night before the game this week in Vegas. What do you think?
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party.
Welcome to the show. It's the Minnesota Football Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota on a Thursday. That's the full crew today. Luke Inman, Luke Braun, Arif, Hasan. I'm Sam Ekstrom. It's Vikings talk every Monday and Wednesday right here on video, Locked On Sports Minnesota, on audio, the Locked On Vikings feed, wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe even the 24/7 live stream that you find here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. So many ways to watch the content. We thank you for watching and listening all week long. Coming up on today's show, of course, Vikings Raiders preview. Minnesota trying to get back on the winning track off the bye. Justin Jefferson returns, and Josh Dobbs has been chosen to continue as the starter for his 5th consecutive game. But first, we are presented today by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. I think we got to hit the Luke Inman question right out of the gate. Which Viking is slipping down to the Wynn or the Bellagio or MGM and going to the high roller room, the private blackjack room where the minimums are 1,000, and playing 3-handed blackjack from like 12 a.m. to 3 a.m.? Who's it going to be?
Yeah, see, I initially I was like, maybe Jordan Addison likes to play some cards.
Yeah, Addison came to mind.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
Addison. Then I went the opposite way, Sam, and I went, you know what? The family man, CJ Ham, the guy who probably never gets to go to the casino, never gets to go out and stay out late. He just goes wild. This is my chance.
The Duluth boy,
yeah.
Falls
Duluth
boy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's like, this is my one chance to go hit the strip, go have some fun. Papa's got to roll the dice. Let's go get some new shoes. And I just think CJ Ham might be a low-key wild card. He's probably not the favorite, the odds-on favorite in Vegas, no less, but I think he's a sneaky wild card.
Harrison Phillips risking his man of the year status.
That rule.
Rip it up.
I raise.
I was going to say, Harrison
Puts it
Smith
on the
just
table.
strikes me as the kind of guy.
He's counting the cards. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say Harrison
Yeah.
Smith has a strategy. Like,
For
he
sure.
knows that he's got hard limits. Like you said, he counts cards.
He plays
knows,
tight
like,
a lot, doesn't really bet a lot, and then all of a sudden
Right,
just goes
yeah.
all in. Yep.
You know, at the poker table, probably folds a fair amount, a
Mhm.
professional amount, even.
going to be lit on Saturday night because you've got the NBA in-season final. You
Oh,
might have
right.
all of LA going to see the Lakers in that one. The semifinals are tonight. It's going to be unbelievable this weekend. What a weekend. The one time in 8 years the Vikings will be there for Minnesota to in December. Perfect time of year. I'm jealous of you, Braun. That's going to be a ton of fun. And you get to watch number 15, Josh Dobbs,
Great
as the
transition.
quarterback against Aiden O'Connell. Scale of 1 to 10, how we liking the decision by Kevin O'Connell to stick with Josh Dobbs? Let's start with the guy who's going to the game, Luke Braun.
I went on record saying I thought it should be Jaron Hall. I just think he gives the Vikings the best chance to win, but I acknowledge that, like, at least it's close. So yeah, if they're going to go a different way, like, I get it. I hope that it means that the little hints that O'Connell has dropped about maybe adjusting the scheme a little bit to fit his skill set better, not rely on rhythm and timing as so much, which Dobbs was really, really bad at in the last game, and it led to turnovers. Hopefully they refigure it a little bit. So I'll say, yeah, I disagree. I would have gone a different direction, but not in such a way where, like, I think the only wrong opinion is the opinion that it's obvious or that it's easy and like, oh, it's clearly should be this guy. Like, I don't know if
Right.
anything's clear here. They went a different way than I would. If that's fine, we'll see how the guy goes.
Yeah, the opinion that it was obvious who they should pick was fairly prevalent, and of course, who it was obvious for was not consistent. But
Yeah, that's how you know.
Yeah, right. But I did like how confident people were about this one. When I did a small live stream for Bleacher Report, the entire chat was just filled up with like, yeah, obviously it was Josh Dobbs, and I was like, what? How is this like the consensus? How
A lot of people saying like, how dare they not start Jaren Hall? Not a lot of Mullins love out there, but there is some.
Well, the thing is, if you were just going straight by the numbers, like Mullins is the quote unquote obvious choice, right? His career numbers are a lot better. He's had higher highs in terms of yards per attempt. He's had higher floors. So like it is like there is a perspective with which Mullins is obvious, but he's clearly the minority opinion. You know, when you run these polls, Mullins gets almost no votes, right? Like if you do a poll on Twitter or YouTube or in the Bleacher Report live stream or whatever, right? Everyone's just like, with Mullins, why would we pick Mullins? And it's like he's like one of the best backups in the league.
Like you could definitely make a persuasive argument for that. Yeah.
Yeah, when the Vikings signed him, they got their Chase Daniel, right? Like that's crazy that you'd just be like, yeah, that guy sucks.
They could have set up a revenge game angle with the Raiders too.
I think it's a lot of like Sean Mannion overflow. Like everybody was so upset with Mannion, who, by the way, behind all three of these guys, not even close, and directly lost a competition to Nick Mullins last year and lost his job over it.
That's right.
No, hold on. No, he lost a job to Josh Dobbs, who showed up 3 days prior to him losing that competition.
Yeah, well,
right? Like Sean Mannion was not active for that Atlanta game.
I was talking about last camp when Mullins showed up in the middle of camp and then ousted him from the team. Like, it's very clear. Very clear that Mullins is a better guy.
But it's like you see a backup statue quarterback who's like not known for his arm, and you're like, yeah, it's another Sean Mannion.
Yeah, and he's not even like a statue that much. Like he'll get out of the pocket, he'll run around.
Yeah,
he's not going to run around like Josh Dobbs does. Yeah, but
so I don't know. That was weird, but I actually do like the decision. Again, it's the extent to which our opinions are valid on this is pretty limited, but I do like the decision just because I think that for the most part, for the rest of the season, the Vikings should adopt a high variance strategy. Obviously, it doesn't like preclude somebody like a Jaren Hall, but I think that Dobbs is. You're just less likely to screw up the development of a 7-year quarterback than you are a first-year quarterback, right? I think that there's like a long-term value to actually not playing Jaren Hall. And I know that, like, generally speaking, we're like, hey, he's a young guy. We want to see what he's got, how much he's learned. You could develop on the field. And it's like every quarterback is a little bit different. And so every quarterback gains or loses something by sitting or starting. And so I think that there's actually a pretty good chance that sitting Jaren Hall is better for his development long term. And I just think that like you just do have a higher ceiling with Joshua Dobbs. And I think that that's just because when you call a shot play, he's more likely to take it, is kind of just how I'm thinking about it. But I do think that you should have a higher variance quarterback. Of course, in this specific game, a lower variance quarterback is probably better. But over the stretch of 5 games, especially attempting to win 2 out of the 3 final games that matter the most for the Vikings playoff chances, I think you want a higher variance quarterback because you're going to be the underdog. And so, and I'm going to write about this higher variance stuff in a little bit, but you just want a broader range of outcomes for points that you can score. If Nick Mullins gives you like 17 points every single game, and that's not fair to characterize him that way, but as an example, you're not going to win that many games, right? Historically, you're going to win 30% of your games if you score 17 points every time. If you could pick a random number between 10 and 30, technically that's a lower average, but you're going to win more games. And like I think the odds there are like 42% or something like that. You just have a higher chance of winning. And obviously uniform distributions are how it works. I'll talk about it in my piece, but I just want a higher variance quarterback, and I want him to have these next 2 games to get even more acclimated with the offense. So when the 3 games that matter happen, they'll be a little bit more prepared, whether that's Nick Mullins, Jaren Hall, or Joshua Dobbs. And I think Joshua Dobbs gives you the best variance strategy.
Yeah, I was hoping for Dobbs or Hall. I would have been fine either way with that. My money, though, like you guys kind of touched on, was on Mullins when we talked last week on the show, just based off everything that we heard. And I think what happened was KOC obviously pretty ticked off after that Bears game, wasn't going to commit to Dobbs. The luster had kind of worn off, but then he cools down a day or two later, goes back, watches all the inventory he's got on Dobbs, and then he sits down and watches all the inventory he's got on Mullins, who, again, he's only started one game since 2020, I think 5-12 as a starter. And I think he went back and rewatched everything with a clearer headspace. And I think he sat there and said, you know what? I think Josh Dobbs is, in fact, the best man for the job. Even if the best man isn't what we had in Kirk Cousins, can't run the offense the way I want and as perfect as he could. And I think he's right. I think Dobbs was the guy I was hoping for. And I'm really glad they had this extra week to kind of take their time, not rush into another knee-jerk decision after the implosion that we had to watch on Monday Night Football. And I think if he goes out there and plays a respectable game this Sunday, I think he keeps the job at minimum at least one more week. And real quick, too, on Mullins, I just want to point out, I think Mullins, and you can call me out here, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think the lower back could still be an issue that they're also playing into their decision and is maybe lingering in the back of their minds. Maybe it's not enough to keep him out of games, but I do think it's something they're factoring in when they evaluate all the different variables when it comes to who's the best option.
I think O'Connell
I will
said
add this one
I think
final.
I think
did
you
he?
mentioned the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I will add this one final thing. I think from a locker room or team management perspective, this is a great decision. Assuming all the quarterbacks are equal or whatever, right? And this is not because, you know, Dobbs has has won the locker room or anything like that. Maybe he has, I don't know. But rather because it demonstrates the kind of team culture that Kevin O'Connell is building. You know, he talked a lot about having faith in Joshua Dobbs, and I think it reminds me of the conversation that he shared with us after the game, where he was talking about, hey, I was thinking about pulling Dobbs, right before that 2-minute warning, right, and having Nick Mullins in there. But I thought that Dobbs played hard and had earned the right to try and correct his mistakes. Now, that didn't work out. Maybe they should have put Mullins in. Maybe that would have won the game. But the idea generally is that he likes to give players a chance, and it allows players to play loose, to know that their mistakes aren't going to screw them up, and to know that when he places your trust in you, just generally, it means a lot. And I think that it helps build a locker room that will run through a wall for you. I also think it means that he's not going to pull Dobbs as soon as one mistake occurs. I think that he's going to let him play it out at least for a half, even if he throws a couple of picks, at least for a half, and then maybe longer. That's what he did when, not that he had a huge choice in Atlanta, but like Dobbs didn't play well to begin with in Atlanta, right? And you know, Dobbs pulled through, and that's something that stuck with O'Connell, and it's something that's, I think, going to stick with the rest of the locker room, that Kevin O'Connell doesn't like punish someone for just playing poorly for a game. And the idea of putting his faith in players is like very real, and I think that that's a huge positive for team culture.
Yeah, and I was on Team Jaren Hall as well, like Luke Braun was, but Kevin O'Connell, in this sense, is now like a hockey coach trying to manage his goaltenders. It's such a delicate dance.
I definitely understand what you mean by that. Yeah, for sure.
You come across this a lot in
Panel
the
hockey
sport of
experts
hockey,
here for sure.
where you've got a guy who's given up 3 goals in the first period. How quick is the hook? Because you can't hook him every time, because then he gets nervous. Then you can't rely on him going forward. You do have to let some guys work through mistakes, let things percolate a little bit to build some calluses, which is tough in the NFL. It's tough in the NFL when the sample size is so small and you can't afford to throw a game away like you could in a hockey season. That's the only difference here.
And just like in hockey, the third guy is probably your equipment manager. So
the emergency.
Yep, same thing. Yeah. On
thing.
Hall, like I would have loved Hall as well, and I totally get it. You'd love to get as much inventory as you can before the offseason, before the draft, so you know kind of where you stand at that position with him, what he looks like. But I never really thought they were looking at that right now, because I know their number one priority is just all about winning games, everything they can. Just win games, just win this week. And of the 3 options, again, I don't think throwing a rookie out there, they ever thought that was going to give them the best chance at winning those games compared to the other options. So, yeah, Dobbs was at the top of my list. Hall, too. I think they made the right decision.
If your goal is information gathering, I've heard this a lot, and it drives me nuts. Like, oh, we got to see what we have in Hall. They spent training camp with Hall.
Right.
Dobbs just got here. If anybody we need to like gather information about, it's the guy that's like brand new here that they might have to decide if they want to bring him back next year. So if your only goal is info gathering, which it shouldn't be, your goal should be to win games. But if your goal is info gathering, then it should be the guy that's new.
I get why they prioritize info gathering on the rookie, though, because he's under contract for the next couple of years, where that's not the case for Dobbs.
Right. Like they don't have to make a decision on him yet. You know, like they're not deciding anything about Jaren Hall this offseason. He comes back next camp.
Right. I think for a lot of people, and again, I agree with you, but I just like devil's advocate. I think for a lot of people, it's like they're not going to sign Dobbs. So why would you want to gather info on him? We want as much information about Jaren Hall,
which is wrong. They might bring him back to be the backup instead of Mullins now. Like,
sure. No, I agree. The reason that you want as much information as soon as possible on Jaren Hall is so that you can determine when you need to draft a quarterback as soon as you possibly can. If Jaren Hall is not it, draft a quarterback in the first or second round this draft. Again, I don't agree with any of this, but I think that that's the thinking, right? Is that you learn earlier about a long-term decision that the Vikings need to make. Learning earlier about a very short-term decision, like signing Dobbs to be the backup quarterback or whatever, is like not that important. Which is very funny because the national NFL conversation right now is, oh my God, the league is learning how important backup quarterbacks are, which I don't
exactly. Like,
I don't think that's real, but like, yeah, that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
And it's like very funny.
My whole
the national conversation.
Like the point that I've made about this on Locked On Vikings and elsewhere has been with Jaren Hall. They already know what they need to know to decide their draft strategy about Jaren Hall. You're going to learn more about a guy in camp than you will throughout the season. Especially if you throw him in and you don't think he's ready, or you don't think, if you throw him in and there are circumstances that you go, yeah, but Justin Jefferson was out for those games and blah, blah, blah. And maybe he wasn't ready to start yet and all that stuff. And I follow that through to the draft. Are we going to sit there in the draft in the first round and go, oh man, this Heisman winning quarterback is like right here on the board, but we do have Jaren Hall. Like they're never going to do that.
We have our fifth round.
I mean, come on.
Our fifth round guy a lot.
Yeah.
No, he's only 26 years old now. It's fine.
Yeah. They're never going to do that.
Yeah. He's just as old as Michael Penix Jr. Come on. It's the same.
Yeah. Right. And he's got 2 healthy knees. So it's fine. All right.
Quick question on Dobbs. Okay. So if Dobbs hit the open market after the Saints game, what would he have gotten paid then compared to hitting the open market now? Keeping in mind that Matt Flynn signed a multi-year deal off of one game with Green Bay.
Wow,
that was
great poll.
Also, that was
great
like in
poll.
like 2011. Like those numbers.
That was 11 years ago in a much different cap environment. 3 years, 19 million. Think of what that would equate to today. Anyway,
yeah. What's Case Keenum money today?
What has Dobbs lost in the last 2 weeks? Is more my.
I think it's like $4 million a year off his contract.
3.25 Case Keenum. Yeah.
I think if he hits the market after the Saints game, he could go for $8 million a year. Now I think he goes for $4 million a year. I think that's what happens.
Could come off a couple good games and bring it back up.
Yeah,
I firmly believe he has the next 5 games pretty much under lock. Like I think if they were gonna
lock, but yeah,
I think if they were gonna pull the quarterback, they would have done it at the bye.
I think if he throws 5 picks, he's done.
I guess
Braun, you foreshadowed this. Like, you said Braun, I think, said, like if you
that puts
turn it over 4 times
right?
and lose to Chicago, then everything's on the table, and that's what happened, and it was on the
table.
table.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, look, if you have a meltdown, you like lose to the Bears and this totally horrible thing, then we gotta think about it. They thought about it. They said no. I guess if he repeats it again, here's a question: have we seen the worst Josh Dobbs game this year?
I don't think in a Vikings uniform. The Cardinals, there was some pretty bad games.
No, in a Vikings uniform.
Oh, you know what? I think the Bears game is probably the worst he's going to be.
I think so as well. Getting JJ back, 2 weeks to prep, bigger sample size. I think so as well.
That's a good segue. JJ
sure
comes
hope
back.
so.
Can JJ do with this backup like Jamar Chase did with the Bengals backup? That's next after a word from LinkedIn. Small businesses, perk up your ears. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. They want you to have the most top-tier candidates possible. How do they do that? Well, they're not just another job board. LinkedIn is a vast network, more than 1 billion professionals, billion with a B. It's the best place to hire. And there's a lot of candidates out there, but you want quality candidates. With LinkedIn Jobs, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And when you're a small business, you might be wearing a lot of hats. You might not have the time or resources to hire. And with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. And they've launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you, everydayers, for tuning in here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. You can get the Minnesota basketball party on Wednesdays, the Ron Johnson show on Tuesdays, and the Postcaster General, Luke Inman, hosting the postcasts after every Wolves, Vikings, Gophers, and Twins game. It's a lot of Wolves right now, and they're the best team in the NBA. Luke Inman, Postcaster General.
Postcaster General. That's like really good.
Is it that not solid? How good is
Yeah, I
that?
like that a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I
who
love
came
it.
up with that?
I love it. That would be Sam the man.
All right, Sam. All right.
Yeah, props to Sam. He just he just slid it in one day too, and I
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
was like,
that
oh,
had
okay.
to have come from an organic place.
That's good.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, it's once in a while. I hit on the wordplay. But Inman, Justin Jefferson back. Does he raise Dobbs, kind of like Jamar Chase did with Jake Browning, or does it have the opposite effect where Jefferson suddenly looks more ordinary?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors into that one. At the end of the day, it's all going to come down to how they use Dobbs and JJ together on the field at the same time. But I will say, this was another reason I was hoping they'd stick with Josh Dobbs, because I think we all wanted to get a look at Dobbs getting to play with such a special weapon, an X factor like JJ that we know can elevate any quarterback. And if nothing else, taking extra attention away from other guys, limiting the things you can do schematically on defense when it comes to, maybe keeping a quarterback spy on Dobbs every play. And again, I think we all wanted to see what that looked like at least once, because you're not getting the whole version of what things are meant to look like until you get the guy that half the offense was built around in the first place. You put a guy like JJ back on the field, there's no answers for someone like that. So if nothing else, at minimum, now we get a bigger sample size of Dobbs. You get a snapshot of him working together with JJ. And now we can all start to kind of grasp what Dobbs can really do when all the pieces are in place and you got the best 10 guys out there, as opposed to, what we talked about. Yeah, he showed up at the deadline. It was really cool for a while until it wasn't anymore. Then we decided we had to move on. So again, I think it's the right decision to go with Dobbs. They're taking the right process with this one, the right approach. And, just knowing where they're at in the season, wild card hunt, all those things. I think the upside you get with this is you make the playoffs and you potentially find your bridge quarterback next year if you decide to let Kirk Cousins go, and you go from there. Because if Dobbs plays well with JJ and you go draft a quarterback next year, let's say, that gives you the freedom, the luxury to sit that guy if they're not ready and still feel like you've got a chance to go out and still be competitive and win ball games on a weekly basis with a guy can reach the playoffs and did it last year, which I think we all know by now. That's always going to be at the top of the list with the Wilfs, with Kwesi, no matter what year we're in the competitive rebuild thing. They're always going to have winning games on their mind, first and foremost, and they're never going to want to strip things down to the studs. So I'm excited to see what this looks like this week.
Arif?
So I was just looking up. There's a really good piece about the impact that Randy Moss has had with or without you, basically, on-field, off-field impact on quarterbacks. And so there's a piece at 538 about it. There's a piece, I think, at Football Perspective about it, but it comes to the same conclusion. What's really interesting is that, Jerry Rice had a really strong with or without you. So with him, quarterbacks increased the yards per attempt by about half a yard per attempt, and their touchdown percentage by half a percentage point, which is huge, right? It's one of the best that we ever have. Randy Moss increased it by a yard per attempt and an entire percentage by touchdown percentage. Enormous, right? And obviously there's like sample issues or whatever, but it's really cool. I would venture to argue that someone like Justin Jefferson within the Vikings passing environment is probably between those two, which is not to say he's better than Jerry Rice or as good as Randy Moss, but rather the type of impact that he has with this particular Vikings roster, with the way that they design their offense, is probably somewhat similar. And so I'd say that Joshua Dobbs on average is likely to throw for at least half a yard more per attempt with somebody like Justin Jefferson on the field. I think that is going to be huge just in terms of their ability to create new first downs, to avoid interceptions, to put themselves in scoring range more often, to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. And if the defense continues to put up these performances, I think since week 4, the defense has allowed 18 points per game. That is mind-boggling. If they continue to put up this kind of performance, especially against what I'd regard as a weak Raiders team, you don't have to score that many points to win. If you can reduce turnovers and create first downs, which I think Justin Jefferson helps you do in a pretty significant way, I think that alone could be the difference between winning and losing, which is not very common for wide receivers. Right now, I think there's 2. I think it's Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. I like Brandon Ayuk a lot. I like Nico Collins a lot. I like a lot of these really high-impact, high-level receivers, but I think there's only 2 right now where they can swing games that way, and Justin Jefferson's one of them. And so I think that the impact is going to be enormous, and I think that that's probably going to, really elevate our perception of Joshua Dobbs as a quarterback, because now he's not throwing to rookies or third stringers. Now he's throwing to the best receiver in the NFL. And I think, his ability to adjust to the ball, his ability to find open space, his ability to work with improvising quarterbacks, I think all of those are going to help Dobbs in enormous amount in ways that somebody like a KJ Osborne really can't.
Let's hear from Luke Braun on this, and then we'll get to Ron Johnson after that. Luke?
I think to say the opposite, to say that like, Dobbs will bring JJ down and make him look ordinary, like you said, you have to like backslide into the Justin Jefferson was just a Kirk Cousins merchant take that like some people have, but like you have to say some crazy stuff to defend it. But like,
that is true takesmanship. That's good.
People in my mentions, avoid my YouTube comments. I think you have to go to that crazy a place. Like, of course, the best receiver in the NFL is going to help. No matter what they try to do, right? That's the whole thing about Justin Jefferson, is that he's like scheme proof. You want to send him deep, send him deep. You want to give him the ball underneath and let him do stuff with the ball in his hands, you can do that. You want something in the middle that's based on timing, you can do that. You want some contested catches, that's great. You need him wide open, that's great. Find a hole in the zone, we can do that too. Like what can't he do, right? So whatever they ask Josh Dobbs to do for the rest of the season here, whatever the offense morphs itself into with Dobbs, if anything is different, he's going to be a very helpful weapon to that. It kind of feels like insane to imply otherwise.
Ron Johnson joins us now, his Thursday appearance on the Minnesota Football Party. He hosts the Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays, Locked On Sports Minnesota. He's at 3 Ron Johnson on X, and he hosts Vikings Game Day Live as well. Ron, welcome to the show. Raiders on Sunday. What type of things are you thinking about regarding this Vegas team? A team that I don't think Vikings fans probably watch a lot. They're not on TV a lot locally. They play 3:00 games. They've got an interim coach. They've got a backup quarterback. There's not a lot of familiarity with Vegas, I guess, other than Devontae Adams, who we saw for many years. What are you thinking about with this Vegas team?
Yeah, I mean, when you first think about the Las Vegas Raiders and everything they've been through, you're like, I know why they're not on TV. They are horrible. There's a reason you don't put that on TV, because you don't want to ruin people like Taylor Swift's experience with the NFL. But when you actually start to break down the last 4 weeks since they've gotten, so weeks 9 to 13, since they got rid of, but they didn't play in week 13, but since they got rid of Josh McDaniels, they've been playing pretty good. I mean, when you think about third down defense specifically and the teams they face, you'd be like, man, I bet those teams killed them. Nobody has gotten more than 45% completions on third down, and to hold the Chiefs, the Dolphins, I mean, they absolutely destroyed the Giants. They destroyed the Jets. I think they were like 27% on third down. They're starting to figure things out, but here's fundamentally where I think they're off, and that's one of the reasons they got rid of Marcus Peters. If you watch them on third downs, the success these teams found were, 1, in the Chiefs, quick motions to figure out the coverage. 2, Marcus Peters, like half the time, was playing for himself. Like he would be in man coverage,
Classic,
and literally not care about the fact that there's a wide open guy running by him. because he would be like, that's not my guy. My guy's up here. I'm not worried about this guy going. Like, it just was super weird to how the coverage looked versus what he's probably was supposed to do. And you saw it more than not. And so I'm guessing that's why they got rid of him, probably because he wasn't a team first guy right now in his career. He's always been kind of a wild card of a player, willing to fight the fans. And so I think they moved on from him. So moving on from him, I don't know if that's going to fix it. We'll see this on Sunday, but I will say on third down, they do make it tough for you to convert. Whether it's they're going to bring the extra rush. Max Crosby's been playing pretty good. The DBs all seem to be in the right spot. But then there's times like against the Dolphins, there was a bunch, right? And all three plays, I have some plays I'm doing on Sunday. All three plays are all from bunch. 3 different teams too. Jets, Chiefs, and Dolphins all ran bunch on third down because they realized these guys don't know how to talk to each other. And when you bunch up, and so I heard you guys talking about Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, specifically Justin Jefferson, but KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison with TJ Hawkinson. That's 4 ridiculous weapons that you can put any 3 in the bunch. My guess is you put TJ, Jordan, and KJ in the bunch, and you force them to watch too much backside because the Raiders, number one, their safety, he tends to be the guy that's going to help double the guy backside, which against the Chiefs, it was Travis Kelce. And so then you saw guys like Shaheen come open, or Rasheed, I think it's Shaheen or wherever Rice. No, sorry. Rice come open. Yeah. Rasheed Rice come open. You saw a lot of that. You saw the same thing with Tyreek Hill. Only reason he caught some balls was because I don't know what the safeties are doing half the time. Like they're supposed to be in cover 3. They're dropping down and they're worried about the wrong part of the cover 3. They're supposed to have the hook and they're sitting up worried about the guy in the middle. So there's a lot of fundamental issues that teams figured out by bunching. You're going to screw them up. So one, they are a good team on third down. The problem is other teams are just getting first downs on second down. And that's where you see them fundamentally become flawed is they don't realize on second down, you can also stop them from getting a first down. It seems like third down, Pierce has them paying attention, but then on other downs, that's where they're starting to lose these games because they're playing okay, but they're not playing great.
Inman.
Yeah, Ron, always kind of fun to play teams in the AFC. You don't really get to see a lot. This is the first time at Allegiant Stadium for the Vikes. Heard it's, by the way, an unbelievable venue. As a former player yourself, what's the funnest or coolest place you ever got to play or have seen even covering the Vikes, college or pros? Give me your top 3. Rank your top 3 and why.
Well, I mean, I did go to UNLV, so we did get to see the Raiders Stadium. It was like 2021, I think, when I was doing college games. I think it was 21 or 22. But yeah, we got to see the Vegas Stadium. Didn't get to call the game in it. We called it at UNLV, but it is a cool looking stadium. As far as playing, I mean, honestly, like going to Michigan, you can't deny going to Michigan, going to Ohio State. Those are staples of football. NFL wise, it's kind of tough. I mean, I don't know, like the Ravens, we didn't really travel to like Green Bay and do some of the historic places when I played. But, you know, as far as the Bears go, you know, being in the Bears stadium, just the history of those guys when I played for the Bears, I'd say that's it. Other than that, like the Washington football team stadium at that time was trash. The field was terrible. The Jets, we almost didn't even play the game because their field was so bad. So some of those stadiums for me, I guess going to Philly too, like that was a cool kind of atmosphere because their fans are absolutely nuts.
Cool. Yeah.
Ron, I can't remember if we asked you this last time we had you on or not, but do you agree with the Vikings' decision to stick with Josh Dobbs?
I do. Honestly, I'm not gonna hate on Nick Mullins, but what does he give you that Josh Dobbs doesn't? And I think the answer is nothing. He gives you nothing that Josh Dobbs doesn't. What does Josh Dobbs give you that Nick Mullins can't? Which is improvisation, running the ball with his legs. Being able to do the tush push when you need one. But Josh Dobbs, again, I've done film study for him the last like 3 weeks actually. And the one thing I've noticed with him is when he has a clear, concise idea of the coverage, like he knows exactly what the coverage is, and not say exact, but he has an idea of his man or zone. He is pretty good. When he is kind of confused and there's a little bit of pressure on him, that's when you see him kind of not pay attention to where he should go with the ball. The corner route in the Bears game where he threw the interception to his left. That's the same play that Kirk Cousins threw a touchdown in like week 6 or whenever they played the Bears. Same exact play, same exact design. Kirk Cousins would have thrown an interception if he threw the same type of ball Josh Dobbs is, which is leading. If he had led Jordan Addison to the corner of the end zone, it's probably a pick. Josh Dobbs tries to lead him versus driving the ball. If he drives the ball on some of those throws, like he knows it's cover 2, you see the corner. He knew it was cover 2. He was trying to beat the corner. That's why he threw that. The guy just made a play. But if he drives the ball and throws it before he gets to that back corner, it's a catch. And that's where I think Kirk Cousins gave you a little bit more. Josh Dobbs just has to learn some of that stuff. Like I think Kevin O'Connell, I mean, you see Tua Tagovailoa do it against the Raiders where there was an in route and you're like, don't throw that. And then Tua throws it and you're like, oh, okay, I see why he threw it. He throws it super early to make Tyreek Hill kind of get the ball before he probably wants to get it. And that's why Tyreek Hill kind of bobbles the ball. I think it's his 3rd down. And then he has like the little jitterbug run and gets out of bounds and does his Tyreek deal. But those are just throws quarterbacks make that know the coverage. They're going to throw it earlier than they need to. The receivers are prepared for it. And that's one thing. The only receiver for the Vikings that I feel like sometimes not as prepared for an early throw is KJ Osborne. I feel like every time he's running that in-breaking route, they throw it a little early. He's always like looking after the fact, like a dog looking for like a laser on the wall. It's like, what was that? Oh, that was the ball. Oh, what was that? Oh, that was the ball. Like he's the only one so far for the Vikings I've seen not be ready for a ball earlier than expected. And that's kind of thing we've always been taught. When you come out the break, get your head on the swivel right now. Like look for the quarterback now. There's no reason to run to the spot if you're in the end zone. And so again, that's just a learning curve for KJ too, because you're in a role that normally that's Adam Thielen. That's if you look at all the KJ Osborne's potential touchdowns, that used to be the Adam Thielen route. And now you throw KJ Osborne in there. He's just not used to that too. But again, back to sorry, I went on a tangent with that though. But looking at Josh Dobbs, I think he is I think he gives you something that Nick Mullins doesn't, and that's why they went with him.
You got a strange way of not hating on people. But one thing that I thought kind of stood out to me is the way that Kevin O'Connell talked about making the Dobbs decision. Now, of course, he and Dobbs sat down, they watched film together. Kevin O'Connell watched film himself. But the way that he talked about it is he talked about like having faith in people, making sure that he kind of pays back the work that Dobbs has put in, giving him the opportunity to make mistakes and stuff like that. And to me, that first of all, that just seems kind of endemic to the kind of philosophy Kevin O'Connell has. He lets players play through mistakes instead of kind of yoinking them as soon as they make one. But to me, that, that allows players to play a little bit looser and gives players a little bit more license to kind of follow that coach through thick and thin, right? And to me, I think that builds kind of a good locker room culture. But I'm on the outside looking in, right? I'm just supposing that that's good for locker room culture. What to you does it mean when a coach sees a player, especially a player, such an important position like quarterback, play really well and then play really poorly and then say, hey, I believe in this guy. I think he can play through it. Is it like, hey, this is a performance league. We got to get some good guys in here. Or is it, hey, I know that this guy's going to stick up for me when I make a mistake?
Yeah. I mean, so you have to think about it again. It's what's in the cupboard. If you've had I don't know what your favorite soup is, but for me, I love clam chowder. If you've had clam chowder from one company for years and years and years, and you're like, man, this is really good. This is really good. And then one day you open up a can and it's horrible. And then you then you go back to the cabinet or you go back to the store and you're like, oh, well, here's vegetable soup. Here's pimento bean soup. Like, you're not going to just make the change because you had one bad thing of soup. And I'm not saying that the quarterbacks in the Vikings shelf are vegetable soup, but I'm not saying that they're clam chowder. And I think that's where Kevin O'Connell was. He had to look at what's in the cupboard, what's worth eating again, and what can I probably say, you know what, let me go ahead and just let me leave this on the shelf because this is not ready to be cooked just yet. And I think that's where he is. Josh Dobbs, him giving Josh Dobbs that level of like, hey, man, you threw 4 picks. 2 of them were you. 2 of them were guys, tip balls. That's you have to because like in the last, like I said, 9 of 13, Josh Dobbs has thrown 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That is not good. But Aiden O'Connell, 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Josh Dobbs, 81 passer rating. Aiden O'Connell, 78. So you're looking at the 2 and you're kind of like, well, his 81 passer rating. If those 2 guys maybe catch the ball, if they're not tipped, if he maybe does this on this throw, like it wasn't like he was making throws and interceptions that you're like, oh my God, oh my goodness, this guy is horrible. He made some throws, and if it's like a half of inch, like if I can't remember who missed time the jump. Who missed time the jump for the Vikings against the
Mekhi Blackman?
Was it Mekhi? No, he
Against
was
the Chiefs?
who?
Against the Chiefs, Ron?
Yeah, the Chiefs. Like should have been.
Yeah, that was Bynum.
That was Bynum.
Like if Bynum is back there when Josh Dobbs makes that throw, it's probably a catch because he's probably going to miss time the jump. But I mean, the Bears kind of timed it up and made a perfect jump. Same thing. Yeah, Mekhi Blackman on the corner route against the Broncos. Same thing. If he's back there, it's probably a catch. So I think Kevin O'Connell watching film too realized like these interceptions were not just terribleness. Like these were not Jameis Winston. Like who cares where I throw this ball? I'm going to throw it. And then I'm going to look at Derek Carr and smile. Like it wasn't that type of throw. These were good throws that just they made plays on them. And the other two were tips. So when you look at all that, you kind of have to say like, yeah, this is probably better. And yeah, it does give Josh Dobbs confidence now going in this game, knowing he's not going to just yank me. You know, like the minute I make a mistake, he's not going to yank me. Like I can trust his system. I can play a little bit more free. I can trust his system. I can play like he's got to keep saying that, trust the system. Because when he trusts the system, he's been making some good throws, which you saw the touchdown to TJ Hockenson to give him the lead. That was trusting Kevin O'Connell's system, saying, hey, look, read Tampa 2. If that linebacker comes up, you know your throw is the middle bender. Just trust it. Step up in the pocket, make the throw. You might get hit, but just make the throw. And that's Josh Dobbs actually listening to a coach and trusting him.
You can catch Ron Johnson on his show on Tuesdays, Basketball Party Wednesdays, our show obviously on Thursdays, and he hosts the Roundtable on Fridays. So tomorrow it'll be Reggie Wilson, Julia Daniels, and myself talking all Minnesota sports with Ron Johnson hosting that show. So check that out tomorrow on Locked On Sports Minnesota, and check him out on X at 3Ron Johnson. Thanks a lot, Ron. Great stuff as usual.
Appreciate it. And that's X, the website, not ecstasy.
Not the drug.
Exactly.
No, got to be careful.
Got to clarify.
Thank you for the clarification.
Got to clarify that.
Vegas week.
Very important. He's also on Instagram. Frequent Instagram poster. Good stuff. Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate it.
All right. Quick word from Skylight Frames, and then I'll tell you my gambling story. Christmas shopping can be hard because it's so cliche, and you can only get the same candles or socks or robes for your significant other so many times. You run out of options. You want an easy, convenient, and meaningful gift to give? This year, look into a Skylight frame for family member, grandparent, spouse. They're so easy and they're so cool. You can get family pictures uploaded quickly and conveniently for free onto your Skylight frame using their app or an email address. You can even set it up while it's still in the box. Then the frame comes out, you prop it up on the counter, and you've got photos that you can look at that are meaningful to you, of your dog, of your kids, of your spouse, family, nature, whatever you want. You know, we have all these pictures on our phones, but it's not always fun to just like stare at the small screen and appreciate your pictures. You want them to just be on display in your home. Skylight Frame allows that to happen. They've got a satisfaction guarantee, free 120-day returns. It's a top-rated brand, over 1 million happy customers. As a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/lockedon. To get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame, go to skylightframe.com/lockedon. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/lockedon. All right, we ran into this last week. Parlay picks. We're out of time, so we can either do the parlay picks in 1 minute, or I can tell you my gambling story, and we text the parlay picks and tweet them out later.
Tell a story.
Story time.
Sounds good. By the way, Luke Braun is just losing by $2,000 in the parlay picks. That's all you need to do.
We'll be max betting again.
It just takes one, baby.
You have to. Yep.
It just takes one.
So went to New York. FanDuel legal state, so claimed the $150 in bonus bets. And remember the promotion, bet 5, get 150. You got to win a money line bet. So this is Tuesday, right? And if I want to bet on the Tuesday night games, I got to settle something before the Tuesday night games because I'm leaving on Wednesday. So I'm like, okay, well, what's something happening this afternoon? Oh, Premier League. So I look at the Premier League lines, and I find the most lopsided money line I can find. -600 on Liverpool against Sheffield United, who, per my research, they sacked their manager. They're last place in the table. They're miserable. I'm like, this is a shoe-in. I was planning out my bets for Tuesday night. So Tuesday afternoon comes around, and I check the scores. It's like, well, where's the game? This is like Aston Villa and Arsenal. Like, this isn't the game I bet on. I looked at the page, and I just assumed they were all on Tuesday. It was a Wednesday game. And I left on Wednesday. So now I'm stuck because I can't get the bonus bets until it settles, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm coming home. I came home yesterday. So now, and yes, Liverpool did win, but I was gone. And here's the catch. The bonus bets expire in 7 days. So now it's 6 days. So my dilemma is, do I drive to Iowa in the next 6 days for the $150 in bonus bets? That's the conundrum I'm in right now, because I screwed up my $5.
We discussed this before the show. The answer 100% is yes.
I think you already know the answer. I think you answered your own question. I think you know.
Yeah.
I think you know.
Yeah, make a trip out of it. Play some craps over the border.
Yeah, there you go.
Have some of the cuisine that Iowa is known for.
Corn nuggets.
Casey's Pizza.
Yeah, sure.
I went to college in Iowa. It's chili and cinnamon rolls. That's the signature Iowa dinner.
Hey, Arif and I and Tom Schreier, shout out Zone Coverage. We went to Kansas City, Arrowhead, a few years back. Mm-hmm. What did we get at that little pit stop? Corn nuggets? What were those?
That place ruled. I wish I remember the name of that place.
That
was
low-key great. Great food.
Yeah. So once we remember it, we'll tell you.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll let you know. Yeah.
Perfect.
So what day are you leaving?
I mean, I got 6 days. Not all those days are going to work. So it's like today, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. One of those three.
I mean, this can be like a smash and grab job. This could be a quick bang. Like, what are we talking? Hour and a half to the border?
Speed to the border, speed back. Yeah, in and out 3 hours.
Why don't you watch Thursday Night Football in Iowa? Like, find some place to like.
Now we're talking.
I'm sure my kids can fend for themselves. They'll be fine.
5D chess. Right. Come on.
Wait, it's time for them to learn, right?
Yeah, at some point you got to just let it. You got to let them, sprout their wings and fly. Yeah,
bean dead the night away. Just let them figure out how to open a can.
Like my father and his father before him. This is what we do. This is what we do.
The dads go to bet on sports. Leave the kids at home.
Fend for yourself.
We'll tweet out the parlay picks. Someone, Inman, you're first. Start the text chain. Someone's got to bet the under tonight, 30.5. Patriots and Steelers. That's the Minnesota football party on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Audio, Locked On Vikings, wherever you get your podcasts, and the 24/7 YouTube live stream right here on Locked On Sports Minnesota as well. Luke, Arif, and Ron Johnson, I thank all of you, and I'm Sam Ekstrom. Talk to you Monday after the Vikings and the Raiders game. See ya.